Where's Jim?
Still
There's
working on
Jim.
that transition.
Oh, whatever. Hi, welcome everybody to Rad Pod and Chill. That was a very nice interlude, particularly after our funny but crazy opener last week. I'm Heidi Kuda. I don't know why I don't have a Chiron. Can you see it or can I just not see it? Who
I don't
cares?
think we have one.
Who
I don't know how
cares?
to do it.
My name's Heidi Sigmund Kuda. I'm with Jim Stewartson and High Fidelity. We've been doing this for 3+ years, so whatever, ever. I'm super grateful to be here with you guys tonight. We did not have a regular episode this week heading into the holiday weekend, but we thought we would talk about some of the news breakers, remind everybody that we have 67 days till our November election. And we also had some very important events occur this week that are very germane to what we do on Radicalized Truth Survives. We've been saying for 3 years that the argument, whenever there is some activity to hold the broligarchs to account, has nothing to do with free speech. And I think that when we saw all the same noisy mob crying about free speech this week related to the Telegram arrest, I just want to say that it was the exact same noisy mob crying about free speech that were in a conniption fit when Douglas Mackey was sentenced for election interference. People might remember him from the 8 years ago, Twitter 2016, and the attack that we were under at that time. So anyway, I just thought we would start there because this is something that we've been talking about for years, warning about for years. And we had a major newsbreaker in France. And who wants to start?
I'll start.
Jim, go.
Pavel Durov is a Russian national who claims to be, fleeing the Russian government, but he's completely full of shit. He did a deal with the Russian government, which gave them access to his platform. Telegram was just kind of a weirdish international version of Twitter until a very important moment. And that moment was January 8th, 2021. That was when Facebook and Twitter simultaneously got rid of all of QAnon after the insurrection. And the entire cult was like, oh, where are we going to go? And Telegram was what was left. Facebook got rid of everybody. And so everybody ran headlong to Telegram. Great. It's encrypted. It's going to be awesome. The problem is that, it's a bunch of sort of, QAnon people traveling into a pit of Nazis and foreign intelligence services. And I cannot emphasize this enough.
Wow.
So what happened is tens of millions of people flooded into Telegram, and they all started up the QAnon channels, and it was just going to be just like everywhere else, but now better because there's no censorship. Well, all that happened is that what was there, like when I wanted to go see what was going on with the neo-Nazis, before I would go to Telegram, and there would be, 40, 50 people in there, and they'd be doing their little Nazi shit in their little corner in the dark. Now it's like tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people in these channels. But basically the extreme versions of these groups that needed Telegram to, because it was letting them do their most extreme rhetoric, now had just a feast. It was like fucking, just, chum in the water. It was like they've been hungry forever to get new people to come into their Nazi shit or their ortho Christian extremist, whatever the fuck. And I have 600 Telegram channels. That's where I go. And it's like a heartbeat for propaganda. I can literally type it into my channels and understand almost immediately what the Russian government is up to, first of all, and how those narratives are being spread across the entire the international landscape. And in America, at least, Telegram is effectively just a cult indoctrination system. You can set up your own Telegram channel. You can have your own special chat. You can set up. You can exchange monies and crypto and all kinds of fucking shit. And no one's going to stop you from doing a thing. The only thing that they vaguely sort of, police is child sexual abuse material, but only kind of. What's important to understand about Pavel Durov is he lived in the UAE, so a haven of excess money, not to mention misogyny.
I'm going to stop you for a second. Mute hi-fi. Is that screaming coming from you? Oh, it's Jim.
Oh, that's
okay.
probably me. Sorry.
Okay. No. That's okay. I just wanted to make sure. Okay. So please continue because I have questions.
So Eric Prince lives there. Also, Pavel Durov is good friends with Andrew Tate.
Wow.
Andrew Tate, who was recently raided for child trafficking, for child rape, for the most despicable shit you can possibly imagine. And by the way, this guy is still wandering around in X spaces like it's perfectly fucking normal.
Wow.
Like what? Like anyone who would be in a room with that animal, like it just fucking mystifies. Anyway, sorry, didn't mean to go off on that.
No, it's so important and so true.
Is in the same category as Tate, as Elon Musk. Pavel Durov has 100 plus children.
Yeah. Right.
More than 100 children, like Jeffrey Epstein, like Musk. They all think that their fucking DNA is like some kind of magical crack or something, and like if you just spread it around the universe, everything is going to be magical. I mean, it's fucking crazy, and so he's one of these sort of elite incels. It's is almost what it is, right? They have ungodly amounts of money and power and all kinds of shit. But they still, like Elon Musk paid a woman, wanted to pay a woman a pony and $250K for a hand job. Right. Even because they don't have the requisite human skills. And that's really important. The entire thing is just sociopathy. It is just the erasure of not only logic and rationality, but critically of empathy. Can't find it. The only kind of empathy you can find is like the fake, Pastelanon, bullshit love.
Right.
There is no caring about human beings anywhere on the whole fucking thing, and it should be burnt in a fire. And I know that there are people who by the way, internationally use it, and I'm not saying everybody on Telegram is terrible or whatever.
Of course.
However, it is right now the most potent, arguably even more than Fox at this point, the most potent propaganda and sort of mental destruction engine on planet or in America.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. Hi-Fi, do you want to weigh in? Because I've got multiple questions.
Yeah, I need to weigh in because some of the things that Durov is charged with, money laundering through crypto, that sound familiar to anyone who watches this show. Not aiding the French government in stopping the flow of child sexual abuse material, drug deals. So basically, you're looking at, if you know your internet history, 8chan, 4chan, Silk Road all kind of rolled into one, in addition to being a psychological weapon. So, yeah,
Thank you
lots
so
going
much.
on there.
Thank you so much for that. That was so. I want to go back a little bit in history and then go back to kind of some of the commentary from this week. Jim, one of the things I noted when I first started working with you, which has been 3 years now, 3 years July, is that part of the reason that you're able to expose what you do and show what you do is as so few people in media actually go into these channels, actually go into these rabbit holes. I would hazard a guess that most reporters don't have 600 are in 600 Telegram channels pulling out this information. So I actually looked at some of your old reporting. I found an article from 2022 that I posted today, so people can find it on my timeline if they like. But it's like these accounts feel so free to be the worst, most disgusting people getting championed with their like grotesque comments and beliefs. And it's like, that's just not at all cool, number one. And number two, when I met you 3 years ago, you told me that there were millions of people being radicalized toward extremism, toward Nazism, white supremacy, and all of that. And I think it's very important that we actually address head on how that's not free speech when you're talking about the criminality that he was charged with, the human trafficking that goes on, the illegal activities that go on. What does that have to do with free speech? I believe that is always masking criminality.
I mean, I've said, and apologies for repeating myself, when oligarchs say they are fighting for your right to free speech,
Yeah.
they are fighting for their right to brainwash you, right? Why did Elon Musk buy fucking Zitter? Because not for free speech. The only free speech he wanted was his free speech to brainwash, the 200 million people that he managed to weasel into following him, right? Like everybody I know, like, wow, I wasn't following that motherfucker. He's literally bought it in order to, in order to have that influence. And, in many ways he was competing with Telegram, right? Because Telegram is where you could find these fucking Nazis, where you could find the Nick Fuenteses and the, and these just animals, these fucking, people who want to murder whole swaths of humanity. He let back onto his machine because he saw that, he had competition. And so, he basically recreated Telegram, which is effectively a recreation of 8chan, and just stuck it in everyone's face.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Right. That's the difference is the good news is, at least in my observation, he seems to have made a miscalculation. Like, I think we seem to have reached a point, and don't get me wrong, I think the last month has helped with this a lot.
Yeah.
But we've just reached a point of like, fuck off, man. Like, fuck off. It's like, it's weird. I didn't actually like it at first that we were calling him, but that's what it is. It's fucking weird. It's gross, and stop. I don't want it anymore. And I'm seeing a sort of renewed desire to punch Nazis, metaphorically.
Great.
I don't recommend going to punch anybody, but and so part of what I've been doing recently is kind of modeling that. Like, these motherfuckers aren't that scary. I mean, let me pull their fucking pants down, show you. They're not that. It's we're fine. And so I think basically after 10 years of this bullshit, and by the way, Kamala had a really interesting section of the interview today where she talked about this era that she sees of the last 10 years that she wants to put behind us. And she's exactly right.
Yeah.
She nailed, like, it's 10 years of this shit.
Yeah.
Right? It's 10 years of being just battered with this shit. And I sense that people are fucking tired of it.
Right.
That even the people, you know, sort of that have been mired in this, you know, and are super desperate, they're starting to see the other side's having fun now.
Yeah.
Right? It was always their side that was having fun. They had MAGA and their signs, and they were wooting it up. But now the other side is just doesn't give a shit. It's
very
like,
important.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think there's a sense of you know, that sort of shift, and I think it's having a material impact on the ability of some of these bad actors to you know, reach their own audience, much less any new ones. So
no, thank you for that. I wrote an article called Mojo Rising in Byline that I also posted on my Substack, where I think what worked with Weird was sort of like this hammer that just sort of knocked some of this shit loose, you know? And then what we got was just this kind of beautiful return to some sort of semblance of normalcy. And that felt really fucking good. And so why would we want to go back to all that ugly shit? And I think you have been saying this, both of you have been saying how existential this is for all parties, all sides. But I think that in it being like we're on this precipice where, like, I don't know, I feel like even people who have been kind of MAGA diehards seem to be a little bit on like shaky ground when you talk to them. Like they're not quite sure why anymore. And there may be a moment, and honestly, I think that part of that is how normal and beautiful Tim Walz is. And that's a lot of what people have been talking about out of last week. It's like when you go up against a MAGA diehard and you say, yeah, but how about that Tim guy? They don't have any real response because there ain't nothing to not like about him. So I feel like we have this kind of moment where we might be able to continue to demolish all that shit. And again, we talked about it last week. Some will double down, get more extreme, but maybe there's a return to normalcy that even the diehards might kind of be craving. Could be hopium, I don't know.
No, it's not hopium at all. The only question is timing and whether we're going to survive as a republic in the process of getting to that actual moment, right? You know, I am seeing anecdotally, and not in like huge waves, but people starting to genuinely, like, you know, and I encourage it, you know, like when there's sort of divisions, you know, between, you know, people on the other side. So, you know, I am absolutely seeing some anecdotal of that, but it's not going to, we're not going to be able to really do anything until after the inauguration.
Right.
And it's getting to that point that is most sort of concerning to me right now. I feel, as I've said before, I feel much better, excuse me, about the political race. But this isn't politics, right?
Yeah, right.
This is hybrid war, and they will use everything that they can to try and steal it.
Right.
And we just haven't, I think, properly accounted for the. Excuse me, I'm going to
grab some water, and I'll
the danger between the election and inauguration.
Yes.
Because what will happen, what the scenario that I still cannot avoid in my head is that there will be challenges to mail-in ballots, to foreign interference by the Chinese, and blah, 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 all this kind of shit. And they will push all this stuff up to the Supreme Court with the idea of decertifying electoral votes.
Right.
And if the Supreme Court is sitting in the bench and those cases make it there, they will absolutely approve them, and that will throw it to the House.
Right.
Now, in that scenario, our vote doesn't matter anymore. A bit. Not at all, even a little bit. What happens is all the state legislatures, they vote on who's going to be the president, and Bob's your uncle. Because of all the big empty states in the middle, it will be Donald Trump. And so then we're in, again, a situation, I apologize for repeating if you've heard it, where the Supreme Court, the judiciary branch of the United States of America, the actual one, the legislature of the United States of America, the real one, and Donald Trump and all of his followers will say that Donald Trump is president.
Right.
And everybody else can be like, nope.
Yep.
And that is the moment where the hardest decisions have to be made.
Yep.
And my goal is to not have to make those decisions, because if we get to that point where we're at a constitutional crisis in between there really is no. I don't see a way we prevent something very, very, very bad.
Okay, Hi-Fi. So thank you for that, Jim. Hi-Fi, jump in. I have like a whole bunch of stuff I want to run
I would
down.
just remind everyone that they've already played this game before. They did it in 2000, 24 years ago.
Right.
Bush v. Gore, right? But let's talk about this. Let's see. What are the ways, right? We have the judicial. The one that worries me that nobody's talking about is the fact that people attached to Trump's attempt to overturn the election got copies of the software that runs our voting machines. That exposes a lot of vulnerabilities in code. That makes things vulnerable to hacking. We know that there are people out there who are willing to decertify at the county level. I don't know. There's so many vectors of attack on our election. It's difficult to counter all of them.
You know,
there's so many resources.
There was an interesting notice that the Department of Defense is going to be making sure that the elections are protected, based on a request by the Department of Homeland Security.
Wow.
Specifically for the time between the election and the inauguration, which is good news because somebody's fucking paying attention and they're bringing, they're making sure that they're ready. Bad news, because why the fuck do you need the army?
Well, because we're at war. We're at war. I mean, this is a war.
Let's remind everyone that Charles Flynn is still a 4-star general in charge of the Army of the Pacific.
I mean, he's in the Pacific, so he God knows what he might start, but it's mostly I'm worried about what goes on here. Because if you get the actual Supreme Court to get out there and say, yeah, that guy's a president, then all of a sudden you give all of these people who for 8 years have been frustrated and wanting a reason to go outside with their guns and shoot whoever the fuck they want, because they're so angry at whatever, they'll, in their mind and based on a actual bit of real world evidence, they will have a point, right? And that's why it's so fucking dangerous, is because we've allowed this cancer inside of the last backstop to this election being stolen. and they will. Apologies for reminding people.
It's been
The
done
last
before.
5 presidents have been elected by cheating.
Yeah.
The last 5.
Republican.
The last 5.
So Republican specifically, you're referring to the GOP.
Right. I'm sorry. Yes.
Yes.
The last 5 Republican presidents have been elected by cheating.
And you have written on your
Democrats have won the
Substack.
popular vote 7 out of 8 times,
Right.
and yet find ourselves.
And a lot of that has to do with the same people who disrupted the election in 2016. Roger Stone, he's got a history of doing this. We remind you, these are still free men because they were pardoned fraudulently, in my opinion. And that's okay. Before we move on to some of the things you just brought up, I just want to go back to where we started a little bit. Why do you think Elon Musk, Tucker Carlson, and all the same people who cried about Douglas Mackey are so sad for Durov? Why do you think that they actually see something coming and they're trying to head it off at the pass? I know they keep saying, "Oh, it's free speech," but it's like they're talking about somebody who platforms, as you guys were saying earlier, child sexual abuse content. There is money laundering going on Telegram. There's cartel work, drug deals and whatnot. So again, like that's not what
They need a place to do crimes.
okay.
Right? I mean, that's it. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, cryptocurrency is a way to give each other money for committing crimes.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. I mean, how Hamas and Hezbollah and the Houthis and got $150 million in crypto to attack Israel.
Okay.
I mean,
I just wanted clarity. I wanted a blunt instrument just like that. I just wanted clarity. And I also am grateful to the work of reporters who are debunking this folk hero story that people have been sold about Durov being some free speech activist, the way Julian Assange was, when in fact, he says that he refused to turn over, documentation. So he fled, to Europe from Russia. Meanwhile, he goes back to Russia whenever he wants. So
Julian Assange is the perfect comparison, right?
Great.
Because Julian Assange is a fucking Russian intelligence proxy who basically just, did what what intelligence services wanted, and fucking Durov's the same way, and they're mad about it. They're mad because, it was never about free speech or journalism or any of that shit for Assange. It was because the dude was doing their work for them.
Yeah.
Who was providing the information that they needed to do their crimes.
Yeah.
To steal the election, to smear a presidential candidate, all these things. And Telegram is a useful tool.
Yeah.
Very useful. Yeah. They're all set up there. They all have their fucking Telegram channels, and they, and their little chat rooms and whatnot. And it's encrypted, so theoretically, it cannot be spied upon.
Except that Pavel Durov, who fled Russia, right, had 50 different trips during his exile to Russia. The encrypted thing is questionable because they may be encrypted from the device to Telegram servers, but who has control of Telegram servers?
We've seen all this shit before, and that is where I was going next, gentlemen. 2 things that I think are very important. One is yesterday I reported I had the pleasure of reviewing the new indictment from Jack Smith, where he basically removed any reference to Trump having been president. Hi-Fi, do you want to jump in? Because you gave me a great quote about what Jack Smith is doing. Do you want me to remind you what you said?
Jack Smith is doing the work. Jack Smith he is quiet. He waits. He waits for his opponent to play. And when his opponent is played out, then he makes his move. And this new indictment just slides right around all that SCOTUS bullshit.
So that's what the bottom line is he's trying to outmaneuver SCOTUS. And for me, it was a rousing fuck you to the criminals on the Supreme Court. Jim is probably going to be, yeah, but.
Hold on. I gotta give a shout out.
I mean, yeah,
to Jen.
but they can do it again. They can say, no, that's not what we meant.
Hold on,
Yeah.
Jim. Hold on. I have to give a shout out to Jen in chat because she just came up with felongram, and that's freaking hysterical to me.
What did she call it?
Felongram.
Oh, that's
felongram.
Is that Jen G? Because
indeed.
Make sure she knows it's Death Valley Chap Lips again, because I always forget to shout out the colors I'm wearing.
Wait, that's called Death Valley Chapped Lips?
This is Death Valley. My daughter gets me this rad stuff. It's Death Valley. It's actually an independent woman from Texas, and it's got really cool like a little
I was hoping
on it. But Chapped Lips is the color. That's one of them. I have all these Death Valley ones. Yeah. Okay. Middle Child, Heartless Wench. I know you like the names, Jim. London Smog. What else do I got here? This is my favorite. But the aliens believe in me. That's no promo for. It's just rad nail polish. I just happen to love it, and I love my daughter. Okay, so.
Hey, can we change subjects real fast?
I have 2 more things on my list, but go for it.
For Durov?
Tangentially, I guess. Go for it.
All right. Well, my biggest thing right now is I'm watching the spectacle of, I mean, the way this man stays relevant. Yeah. But he is truly living the even bad press is good press.
Well, yes. I mean, he needs the camera on him all the time or he doesn't exist. So it doesn't matter how he gets there. And he's masterful. He's a masterful propagandist. He is very, very clever, and the people around him at making sure that he is always sucking up airtime, that his face is everywhere. And, when that happens, people are outraged. We've been doing this for 8 fucking years. People are outraged. Look what he said. And then that's another day that goes by where, we aren't focusing like we need to be on democracy and freedom, in my opinion.
There's a different attitude, right? There's and I feel like weird being this guy, but there is a different attitude to me about it, right? Yes, people recognize the absolute existential quality of it, but there's also just a sort of derision, I think a healthy derision, a recognition that this isn't, we got to stop being so afraid of these lunatics, right? And that's why I went up against libs of TikTok and shit.
I can't wait for you to talk a little bit about that.
It's just because, I feel like people are they're like, okay, if you want to do this, let's fucking do it. Let's get this done because we're tired. We want to move on. We want a prosecutor in the White House who's going to start cleaning this shit up. Right. And so if we have to have something out, let's do it. In the meantime, we're gonna call you out. We're gonna be making fun of you. We're gonna be absolutely exposing every last thing that you do. And you can see the terror because they don't have anything. They have nothing. They none of their black swans are working out. The Kamala crash didn't work out. All the fucking all of Mike Flynn's doomsdaying and whatnot, it's just not working. And so that's a good thing because it's not working, but it's scary because it's not like these people are giving up.
No. So that's kind of where I wanted to go next. We have to figure out how to solve this paid influencer epidemic. And I wrote last night, I was doing research, rereading my own Paul Manafort pieces, investigations, looking at Craig Unger's Paul Manafort investigations. And there's a lack of awareness that disinformation campaigns are driven by paid influencers and fake journalists who produce bullshit content to promote Putin's bullshit narratives, or whoever is the proxy putting out the Putin-esque world and lies. And I bring it up because when Jim talks about a decade of this stuff, Paul Manafort's been doing it for decades. And he was doing it in Ukraine, working for basically just another type of Trump character, Yanukovych, a proxy for Putin. And the thing is, he's been then taking it to the next level where he's installing bullshit presidents. And so when you think about this kind of like House of Cards situation, these influencers, and whether there's somebody high end, the billionaires that we've been discussing, or there's some, person that just has been doing dirty shit on Twitter for 8 years, since 2016. And Jim, you understand that LARPing world very well, so I think you see it very clearly. But it's like there has to be a way to kneecap this shit. If you're getting paid to do Putin or whoever's bidding to tell lies and to be controlled opposition and whatever, there has to be a way, just like hi-fi, just like with advertising, whatever, where unless you are, just like with the foreign, just like with FARA, right? You have to register so people know. So whether you're, somebody from Botanic Soup that Pekka exposes, or somebody who works with a stalker crew on Twitter, if you don't register that you're getting paid to do this, then, start the fines. I mean, hi-fi, you have a more seamless suggestion than that, but we need this because the world is unwell, and I'm tired of it, and we got to solve it.
Well, it's very simple. If you are in any way, shape, or form paid, compensated, both before or after you engage in certain behavior on the internet, you have to let people know you are paid for this. And really, this only works if a whole bunch of people sign on. Because there's troll farms everywhere. There's troll farms in Africa. There's troll farms in Moldova, Estonia, Russia, Saudi Arabia, UAE, America, all over Europe. I mean, troll farms is a thing. It's a huge financial sink for the fascists, but it almost worked.
It's not even so much troll farms that are the problem, though. The troll farms are almost sort of this fantasy about these magical automated things that swarm and whatever. The vast majority of this shit is just human beings being paid to be influenced. There's a famously in the kind of the Bitcoin world, there's like teal bucks, right? Like everybody's somehow getting money sent down from the boss to kind of keep this thing going, right? You got the intellectual dark web. Those are all Teal's people, right? Barry Weiss and Eric Weinstein and all these fucking assholes that have this sort of pseudo intellectual sheen, right? And weasel their way into like the New York Times as a fucking columnist, but they're really just there to covertly push the ideology of their masters. Now, so it gets complicated, right? Because Peter Thiel obviously is allied for his own reasons with the Russians. He's different from like Flynn or whatever. He thinks of them as his friends, not his bosses or whatever. But that influence obviously makes it through all of his proxies, and he's got hundreds and thousands of them. So, how do you sort of tease out, these influencers who kind of answer to oligarchs, right?
Right.
You've also got Coke,
Right.
Mercer,
Right.
who pay, who are themselves laundering billions of dollars for the Russians, right?
Right.
And other foreign adversaries, and also making money from the oil industry and all of this shit. And they fund these things.
Yeah.
The Manhattan Institute, which I've
They
talked
still,
about
they
many
set up a
times.
fake think tank, that stuff that
It,
Paul
it's
Manafort
all
did.
it's all funded from these fucking oligarchs. And so, how do you sort of tease out where along the line does it become foreign interference versus somebody who's doing their job? That's why it's such a pernicious thing.
Yeah.
And also why I think it's so important to go after the top of this pyramid. It's not even the trolls and the stalkers and the foot soldiers and shit, because if you get rid of the head of the snake, they'll rebuild. It's a hydra, yada yada. But that's how you at least manage it.
You take away the money. I mean,
Yeah,
so two
that's
things.
simple.
Two things. Yeah, if there wasn't money, there'd have to be some other vocation for these people. But it's important that people understand that their minds are being manipulated from all of these different fronts, and that is why I bring it up today, because I'm tired of it, and I think that we need to do something. Just like we have people register as foreign agents, register as a fucking foreign agent if you're out there shilling for any of these, pro Putin narratives or proxies or whatever. So you want to chime in there, because I got a couple things. Okay, one thing I wanted to say. Go ahead.
I gotta say something really quick. They are kind of easy to spot, though. There's all these companies that we've already seen, media and marketing companies, digital marketing companies. We've seen people who are media team leaders amongst these troll groups and whatnot, these influencer brigades. Um, it's definable, right?
Yeah.
There are money flows,
Yeah.
there are crypto flows, and it amazes me that we have an FBI, a CIA, and an NSA, and this is just, I don't know, is it sliding under their radar? Are they using it as well? What's the fucking deal?
They're
Because
in my view, there's a forgive the term, a deep state of people in the Justice Department, and the FBI and some of the other parts of government that are terrified of anything having to do with trying to regulate any of this stuff.
Yeah.
Because honestly, for many of them, they agree with a lot of it.
Yeah,
and
it's a problem.
and frankly, I think we've seen the evidence for the last 4 years that there is just not an appetite for some damn reason at the highest levels of power to go after these people, to go after the top levels. And again, at the risk of hopium, I do have a feeling that this will be a different administration.
Right.
And so, like, for me, it's just like, all right, well, we just got to get through yet another hurdle.
Yeah. And like we always say, it's like war, they might not be interested in war, but war is interested in them. We got to deal with this, because we're going to have to deal with it. Just read Dave Troy's daily morning report on Twitter, it's like he lays it all out. Like we can't just bury our head in the sand and pretend it away.
Yeah,
So
it's Trotsky. So
yeah,
war, I just want to make sure. War, you may not be interested in war, but war is interested in you. That's the
yes,
quote, and it's
right,
by Leon Trotsky, and
right.
a very important figure, by the way, for a whole lot of reasons.
Yeah, a whole lot of reasons. Yeah, that would take me down a whole other rabbit hole.
Yeah.
How, nobody in MAGA, the word communist is going to be weaponized against us every single minute for the next few months, and nobody in the MAGA cult can even define it
Well,
or understand.
if I ask people, who's the most famous anti-communist? Hitler.
Oh,
Hitler.
well, yeah. I mean, yeah.
No. I mean,
Yeah,
anti-communism is effectively a euphemism
yeah,
for fascist,
yeah,
if not neo-Nazi, right?
yeah,
Or all the way to Nazi, because what Hitler did was he invented a conspiracy of communists and Jews
right.
that were taking over Germany. It was a total invention. But it was that invention that enabled his rise to power, the violence, all of it was that invention, and it was his invention, which may be a good time to talk about Chaya, because it's the same thing, right? Like,
Go ahead.
so one thing I wrote on my Substack, and if you've been following me on Twitter, I went after libs of TikTok after Chaya had tipped to my warrior friend, our friend Jackie Singh, who kind of showed me what was going on. But libs of TikTok was soliciting, well, specifically the person who runs it, Chaya, was soliciting parents in Ohio schools to spy on children, and then tell this fucking terrorist what was going on, so that Chaya could then publicize it and cause tremendous harm. Now, just to reset, the last time she did this was in Oklahoma, and Oklahoma schools got bomb threats,
Jesus Christ.
bomb fucking threats, after this woman Chaya did this, and a non-binary student committed suicide because of the brigade of psychotic hate that was coming from this account. So anyway, I I got snotty, and I wanted to trigger and expose her for what she is, and to show people you don't have to be afraid of people like this. I mean, don't get me wrong. I do not recommend it unless I have a special set of experiences and a very, very hard skin.
Yeah.
But on your own scale, on your own, in your own life, we need to start confronting this shit.
Yeah.
I'm not saying all of us should be going after libs of TikTok because they get 3 million fucking, I mean, it's like, but in your own life, when people say shit that they shouldn't say, we got to stop standing by. We got to stop allowing this to happen, and allowing these people to spread this shit,
Right.
on purpose. Now Chaya does something very especially dangerous that people don't really kind of pick up. They know that she's just horrible, but what she does is she weaponizes disgust.
Right.
This is a very, very powerful emotion that leads to nausea and all kinds of physical feelings because it's related to sickness, death, and all kinds of shit. So she attaches that to LGBTQ plus people, sorry, and black people and whatever woke people that she wants, and she uses this specific emotion because it leads to dehumanization. It is all the way at the end of right before you start killing people, you dehumanize them.
Right.
So Hitler, to tie this up, did this exact thing against gay people, and obviously against the Jews and Roma and disabled people and whoever else he, like Chaya Raichik, has decided is some sort of degeneracy. Well, fuck you, Chaya Raichik. You don't get to decide this, and you don't get to torment your fellow citizens. The simple rule is this: if your speech costs somebody something, it's not free.
That's right.
It may be free to you, motherfucker, but that child who killed themselves because of you, the schools that were terrorized by bomb threats and concerns about God knows what happening to them because of who they are. There's nothing free about that.
Right.
That costs trauma, money, energy, terror.
Right.
And it has no place in America. And I, for my part, will not stand for it.
Well, thank you for that, Jim. The important piece of this is what you brought up earlier, is that they don't like to be punched. And talking about some of these paid influencers or mind-packed influencers, as you guys know, I got to go to St. Petersburg, Florida this summer. And I found out that the organizers of Florida, Equality Florida, organized buses of people to show up at school board meetings and when any key thing was happening where Moms for Liberty was going to be. And guess what? When they're outnumbered, they don't like it. And guess what they do? They fold. And guess what happens? They don't fucking exist anymore. Don't even hear about them. Certainly in the areas where they contested them, because they don't like it. They don't mind bullying from behind their keyboards or showing up if they think that they're going to be with their little small army. But when they're outnumbered, they do not like it and they retreat. And I think that's very important. And
it's simple. Like, goes back to everything everybody ever learned as a kid. You gotta punch a fucking bully in the nose. You just have to, because
head on.
Because they are weak. Bullies, 100% of bullies are weak. That is why they are bullies. It is being a bully is literally a symptom of weakness. So, it is you have to be careful and strategic. But, me, as a kid, there was just one day I was just like, fuck this. And I punched somebody in the nose. And then that was it. It's like, they just didn't I think, and again, I'm not talking about violence.
No, you're talking metaphorically.
Metaphorically, we got to stop just
Stand
letting
up.
people walk all over us, and more importantly than us, our fellow citizens. Like, the idea of being allies to people is not just some fucking woke idea. Right? There's a reason that poetry from that poem from World War II, First, they came for the trade unionists.
Yeah.
Right. That is what we have to remember here, and we have to start being allies for people. And you know what? That includes being allies for people that we don't agree with sometimes.
Right. So 67 days to build a gigantic tent and invite as many people to join us in preserving our beautiful, imperfect democracy. And one more thing I want to say about the paid influencers, because this is important, I think, because I want America's head to stop being so sick. For America's head to stop being so sick, we have to start demolishing some of these fronts that we are facing. And one of them is people who are paid to fuck with our reality. And Kim Kardashian, I'm bringing her up because she was out there promoting crypto and then not disclosing that she was paid $250,000 to do that. So I'm not saying this is a Kim Kardashian problem. What I'm saying is if you are paid to promote something, certainly something that is used for money laundering and war, that should be disclosed. And I also think if you are paid to target people in reputation smears, that should also be something that people have to register for. So that is my point. I want to see transparency, because these platforms that we dreamed of, this beautiful connected world with these platforms, has been making our world incredibly sick. And it's also run by people who are handmaidens for authoritarianism, and they are not worthy of our data. They are not worthy of all of our private moments. And so I look forward to a future where we do, as we often say on the show, where we actually deal with these fucking robber barons and break it up. And, you know.
Well, there has been some good movement in that direction, actually. There are lawsuits going on against Google. There are lawsuits going on against Facebook, Meta.
Break it up. Break it up.
It looks like the government is moving that direction. Harris's suggestion of a tax on unrealized gains has a lot of very, very rich people very, very scared. And there's good reason for that. It's the rich people who are funding this war upon us, right?
Yeah, I mean, underneath this is the greatest theft of wealth over the last 40, 50 years.
Wow.
In world history.
Wow.
Like you look at from Reagan to now, like the amount of wealth that's been produced and the amount that any of us have. You need to look at the fucking curve of wealth distribution in this country, then make it 100 times worse than you think it is, and then make it 100 times worse than that. I'm serious. It's crazy how much money these fucking people have, which they are free to simply use to shape our reality, and in many places play God with us.
Yeah.
And you know, so they're for me, and this is a more of a post-election thing, there's going to need to be some very serious structural changes that are going to get a lot of oligarchs very mad, because there's no way that we can sustain.
We can't sustain this.
No. With Elon Musk, this weird little fucking like incel Nazi from who wants his boarding school in apartheid South Africa back, has $250 billion.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any fucking idea how much money? Like, it's obscene, and it's not normal or natural, and unfortunately, you know, that sort of deep state that we have, has gone along with this, right? The military uses him as their largest contractor.
Right.
That guy, the Great Replacement Theory, fucking like psycho.
Yeah. The guy who tweets
And
Hitler
we're
memes.
forgetting about the fact that the dude runs our satellites and is sending rockets into space. Fuck that. We have to start dealing with situations like that in a serious way, because it's incredibly dangerous, even more dangerous than some of our foreign adversaries, and those are dangerous enough.
It's the new nuclear arms race. That's the bottom line, and they are not worthy, as I said earlier, of any of this. And I do believe that Alex Alvarova, our friend, who grew up in when it was Czechoslovakia, grew up under Soviet rule, love her so much. She said, like the air we breathe, which should be clean, and the water we drink, which should be safe, so too should our communication platforms. They need to be safe from this pollution. They need to be safe from this unreality that's continually served up. And just like I want my flag back, which I feel like we're getting back, I want reality back. I want a shared narrative of truth back. We can get it back when we remove these people from these platforms. And as Jim has said over and over again, break them up, make them public utilities, do what you need to do. We used to be able to do big things. I feel like we're going to be able to do big things again. Our kids are relying on it, and our grandkids are relying on it. So
it really needs to be a utility. Think about this, right? It's like having the entire electrical grid or the water system owned by psychopaths.
Yeah. Poisoning.
Like, for example, like we got an oligarch who owns the water system, and what he was doing was just putting small amounts of drugs into the water system in order to influence people in the directions that he wanted.
That's exactly
Would that be okay
right.
with anybody?
That's
of course
exactly
not.
Right.
But that's precisely
right.
what's happening.
It's exactly right.
Like the metaphor is perfect. He literally is doing that, sending poison into the minds of Americans, just like lead went into the bodies of American children for decades.
Yeah, that's right.
And so, we're gonna have to make some of those changes, but first things first.
First things first.
We gotta get through this fucking election.
Yeah, as High Five said when he named this hour, 67 days. Yo, let's make sure that we are ready for that. High Fidelity, final words.
Final word is, I don't know how more plainly to put it. Billionaires are at war with the rest of us.
Yeah.
There's a massive body count already. Right?
True.
These mass shooters aren't mistakes. They're successes of experiments done online. I think about the 5 kids whose deaths are directly attributable to QAnon and its offshoots.
Yeah.
You know who I got as a bonus?
Where's the accountability? Where is the fucking accountability?
Word.
And
it's coming. It's coming.
You know who I got as a bonus to fuck with after trolling Chaya was Dana fucking Lush. Dana Lush. Whatever she is. Yes. And her husband, who looks like a rejected pirate.
Oh.
Yeah, the wild facial hair, right?
He's got this weird fucking spindly thing like this, but the weirdest part is he's got this like snidely McNazi fucking
the big swirl curl thing. Jesus,
whatever that is. Yeah. And it's just creepy and fucking weird. And his wife is like there with her fucking AR-15s, and it's all just very cucky and strange and odd. And I'm sorry, I didn't need to use that word.
Here's a promise. Here's a promise. Once we take care of the planners the financiers and those who executed these plans to bring this instability, to attempt to topple our democracy. Once those three levels of people are held accountable, the rest will just blow away like ash in the wind. And that's the final word.